comes to a point where I'm ready to throw in the towel. Like, how many weeks in a row do we have to go through this? How many weeks in a row do I have to get my hopes up that DeAndre Swift may finally actually have a startable role, and then he goes out there and is outplayed by Justin Jackson? I'm going to talk about some players that have lost a tremendous amount of value over the past few weeks now. I'm going to be talking about if we should be panicking, if we should be selling for anything we should get, if we should expect them to be better going forward. But before we get into this very painful video, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section. And in the comment section, you can find a link to Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, when you go and sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You can check out all these cool player props. You can get into drafts with us on the live streams. My favorite prop for tonight is going to be the James Conner line. I mean, hell, I know it's a tough matchup, but when the man gets every single touch, that's someone I want to bet on. And like I said, link in the comment section, link in the description, promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match available in almost every state. But that should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into our first player here in Kadarius Toney, because right off the top, I owe you an apology. Once we had Juju Smith-Schuster and McCole Hardman both ruled out this week, I called Kadarius Toney a must-start player. Now, I know I could sit here and I could say, oh, he got injured. If he would have played the entire game, I would have been good. Oh, I made the right call. No. With Kadarius Toney, there were a ton of people in the comment section telling us, oh, Mason, he's not going to make it to halftime. Oh, Mason, those hamstrings aren't going to hold up. I mean, you knew the risk going into it. I should have known. We should have known that the risk didn't make sense. We should have known that Kelsey could have gone out there. Kelsey could have had every target, comes away with 3 touchdowns. Now, going forward with Kadarius Toney, this just continues the trend of Toney not being able to stay healthy. This also was his week, because Juju will probably be back next week. Sky Moore took a pretty big step up. So at this point, when you see Sky Moore, I mean, go through and have 5 receptions, 63 receiving yards, a rookie they just took in the second round, that is a pretty exciting development. And that I think he will be at least operating with a larger role going forward. Juju Smith-Schuster's still going to be the wide receiver 1. So this was Toney's one shot. It didn't work out. I don't know if you should drop him, but I don't know if I'm ever going to feel comfortable to tell you to actually put him in your starting lineup again. I wanted to get this out just because I owed you an apology. And with Deontay Johnson, I owe myself an apology because I drafted this man everywhere. I thought he was going to have 10 targets a game. I thought that Ben Roethlisberger leaving wasn't going to crater his value like everybody was saying, but nope, everybody was right. Deontay Johnson at this point, where's the upside? It's non-existent. Like, literally, it is not there. You could look anywhere for this Deontay Johnson ceiling, and it's non-existent. I mean, literally, 5 targets back-to-back weeks. If we're looking at Deontay versus George Pickens so far this season, what is hilarious is George Pickens has been so much better as a rookie with way fewer targets. Like, if you're going to go ahead, if we're going to pull up this George Pickens game log, the main thing I want to be pointing out is George Pickens sitting with 53 targets this season. 53 targets compared to Deontay Johnson at 86. And if we're looking at the receiving yards, they are almost identical. I mean, after they're updated here on ESPN, they should be identical. George Pickens doing so much more with so much less. Chase Claypool leaving this offense isn't helping Deontay in the slightest. I mean, Kenny Pickett did take a step forward this past week, but Deontay Johnson hasn't scored a single touchdown this year with like 86 targets. I don't know if we can drop him, but could you ever start Deontay Johnson? Like, we've been ranking him as like the wide receiver 28, 29, 30. It's probably even too high. Going over to Carolina with DJ Moore, with Deontay Foreman. They're both on our do not start list You want nothing to do with these guys. They're both on sell high lists for pretty much the past month. I mean, I think we just have to stand by what we've said. You can't be starting anybody in Carolina. I mean, they've gone from Baker to Walker, back to Baker. They've gone from Matt Rule to a new coaching staff. Like, it doesn't matter. The Carolina Panthers have tried it all. The answer for the quarterback position is not in the building right now. It's not. If Deontay Johnson was catching the ball, then sure, you could go through and start him. You can start a running back that's in a bad offense if he's getting enough volume. If he's getting every single touch out of the backfield, including actual receptions, he can be startable in a PPR format, but Deontay Johnson doesn't have that workload. Now, Cordell Patterson's a running back that I really wanted to root for. However, I mean, we kind of knew not to start him this past week against Chicago just because 2 weeks before, Cordell Patterson played, about 22, 23 snaps out of 60 for the Atlanta Falcons. He was in a 4-man running back by committee. And what have we said over and over again? You can't play a running back that's in a bad offense that doesn't catch the ball. Cordell Patterson, a former wide receiver. We saw the receiving down upside a year ago, but Marcus Mariota does not throw. Literally, the passing volume is non-existent for the Atlanta Falcons. And for this reason, you're sitting here with 11 targets so far this entire season for Cordell Patterson. This entire year, he's had 11 targets. As a former wide receiver, this past week, he only has 10 carries. He plays fewer snaps than Tyler Algier. Cordell Patterson, not startable. This was about the best matchup you could ask for. How much better could it get than going up against the Chicago Bears where you scored 27 points? He's still not coming through. I'm ready to just throw him the towel. Now, the one guy that could not be more frustrating, DeAndre Swift. With DeAndre Swift, we've known not to start him. We've already said you cannot start DeAndre Swift until we see the role change on the field. Until we see him out there in the football field taking 60% of the snaps for the Detroit Lions, he can't go anywhere close to your starting lineup. But I've still maintained our stance that this is a player that has rest of season upside. That if things break right, he could be that top 10 RB in a full PPR format. Well, if you're looking at DeAndre Swift, this past week, the man plays 21 snaps. Justin Jackson gets 25. DeAndre Swift was practicing in full. DeAndre Swift was practicing in full this week. Now, we did get the report on Saturday that, he's going through stuff still. Of course, I've never been a running back at the NFL level. I know your jaw just hit the floor. I know you are very surprised. I know I look like I'm built like an NFL running back, but reality, it's just the looks. So I can't exactly understand what it means that you're practicing in full, still dealing with stuff, and we need to be still giving you an excuse on why you don't have the usual role, why this is the third week in a row that you're active and you're the third running back in your offense. I hate to do this. I hate to maintain for the past 6 weeks that DeAndre Swift is still someone with rest of season upside and then go through and throw in the towel, because when I throw in the towel, I know what's going to happen is Swift's going to come out next week. Swift's going to see 75% of the snaps, and he's going to be the running back 4. He's going to score 29 points. I can already see this playing out, but I don't want you to drop DeAndre Swift. I just don't think we should be relying on him as a running back that we plan on starting in the fantasy football playoffs. If we get anything from DeAndre Swift this season, I'll be happy with it. If we get anything. Now, going over to Lamar Jackson, Lamar is a down performance, 209 passing yards. This is coming off a game right before where he had 133. He only has 31 rushing yards as well. So Lamar doesn't have a good day here from a real life perspective, doesn't have a great day from a fantasy football perspective. Now, if we are projecting Lamar Jackson going forward, I think if you're a Ravens fan, you should probably be a little bit worried. Obviously, this defense has been carrying you if you're a Ravens fan. If you're going back to what we had with Lamar Jackson through the first 3 weeks this season, he had 12 touchdowns. He had 12 total touchdowns, averaging 4 touchdowns a game. But since then, 1 touchdown, 1 touchdown, 1 touchdown, 0 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 1 touchdown. Since week 3, Lamar Jackson has had 1 game with multiple touchdowns. He's averaging 1 touchdown a game. I think there's something to be said about removing Rashad Bateman and then telling Lamar Jackson that his number 1 wide receiver is Demarcus Robinson. I think from a real life perspective, you should probably be a little worried. He still has like 660 rushing yards on the year. So from a fantasy football perspective, Lamar Jackson's still a quarterback 1. Like, don't worry too much about that. But I don't know. This is a little worrisome. Now, going over to our next guy, we got Brian Robinson. I mean, just all the lists that were on our sell high running back videos last week. Continued trend. We'll say it again. Running backs that are not catching the ball in very bad offenses, you don't want anything to do with them. Now, I know Washington, a little bit of a hot streak here as of late since Heineke's taken over. But with Brian Robinson, I mean, sees his play get cut in half. Plays 23 snaps compared to Antonio Gibson at 46. Now, keep in mind, this should have been a pretty good game environment for Brian Robinson, where they're winning the entire contest. Houston scores 10 points, the majority of that at the end of the game. So you would assume, okay, yeah, let's grind the clock down with Brian Robinson. Gibson looking like he's taking over as the starting running back. Brian Robinson in a full PPR format. I'm going to repeat myself. Yeah, there's no upside here. There's no upside here. Unless you think he can be Jamal Williams freaking leading the NFL in touchdowns. The man has 7 receiving yards this year. Now going over to another running back that is definitely better than Brian Robinson, definitely better than Deontay Foreman, definitely better than Cordell Patterson. I mean, definitely better than all these guys we've been talking about. Dameon Pierce, he falls in that same bucket. He is just a much better version. He's a running back that's very good on first and second down. He's a running back that does not catch the ball out of the backfield and plays in a horrendous offense. And this is the floor with a player like that, where he goes out there, he has 10 carries for 8 rushing yards. And he can't save his day. I mean, he can't get you 7, 8, 9 fantasy points just based off his receiving down usage. The man has, 2 receptions, 9 receiving yards. The week prior, 2 receptions. The week before that, 0. Now, he had a little stretch in the middle there where he was respectable from a reception standpoint, but he's sitting at 22 on the season so far. I think the Houston Texans are the worst team in the NFL. Dameon Pierce is the starting running back for the worst team in the NFL. I mean, you can get away with it if you're catching the ball. But if you're not catching the ball, you don't have access to those high value touches in terms of receptions, and you don't have high access touches in terms of touchdowns because you're playing on the freaking Houston Texans. But I think that's all I got for you. Of course, thank you so much for checking us out. If you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section. I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. And if you want to check out this player prop on Underdog Fantasy, you can find the link in the comment section. You can find the link in the description. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. My favorite line is going to be the James Conner one for tonight. It does look pretty nice. But thank you again. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you out in the live stream tonight.